Hi, everybody. Coach will make a brief opening statement, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Obviously, we've made some difficult decisions regarding our staff. First of all, I'd like to thank Chris and Ron and Deej for all their work, all the care and concern over our players, their families. Those guys poured it into these kids, into our efforts. These decisions are never easy. I wish them the best and support them moving forward. It was a comprehensive evaluation that's been ongoing and will continue. There was frustration and disappointment over the way the season went, and there needed to be some impactful changes. I believe these changes are necessary to maximize the potential of this program and achieve our goals, what we all want. It's my responsibility to this university, to these players, to these fans, to this administration, to make those decisions, to move this program over the hurdle and get it back where it rightfully belongs. So we'll get this right. There'll be other hard decisions down the road, I know, but I'm always going to do what's right by Virginia Tech and this football team. So we're awful excited about Duke's Mayo Bowl. Can't wait. Great opportunity for us. I know we'll have a great turnout with our fans. We've got some tremendous opportunity for some young guys in our program. It's been a good couple of days of practice in that regard. Grateful that we were chosen for this bowl, and looking forward to it. We're going to give the guys a couple of days off this weekend and pick it back up next week. But I'll take some questions at this point.
Start with Andy and go Damon.
Brent, you said it was an ongoing evaluation. When did you come to these decisions? When did you hand out these decisions?
Yeah, this has been several weeks. Unhappy with some things. Through midpoint of the season, you're evaluating all the time. It just didn't go. It didn't start the way we needed it to. There were some points in the middle that some things were concerning, and down the stretch, there's a lot of positives, but there were things that, to me, when I looked at it, they just weren't up to the standards and expectations that I have for this program. And it's my responsibility to push the envelope and make sure they're met. So those decisions, I've had multiple meetings with Whit Babcock, and those decisions were ultimately decided here in the last couple of days.
With Marv specifically, you handpicked him to sort of mold him in that defensive coordinator role. Did you feel that just wasn't coming along in that sense? Were you disappointed in play calling aspects? What specifically there?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the specifics of it. That's between Chris and I and the staff. But, we didn't play good enough defense, particularly at the end of games. To me, you win championships on defense. And that the onus is on me. It's on all of us that have anything to do with what we're doing defensively. And, we've got to be better there. We had opportunities to close out some games and jump that win total, and didn't happen for us.
Chris did not have the experience as a coordinator coming in. You're looking to your new defensive coordinator hire. Do you have to find somebody that has that experience? Do you take on a bigger role yourself in doing that? How do you view that position going forward?
Yeah, no, we've got a ton of candidates already. The list is grown and it's strong. There's guys that are incredibly interested. Obviously, when you make these decisions, you start building your list of strong candidates that you want to talk to, and that's kind of the mode we're in right now. fielding calls. You start vetting candidates. I certainly have an idea of what I would like for it to look like. So that's where that is.
But you don't plan to take play calling duties?
I do not.
Brent, when you look at the offensive line, was there anything particular in terms of development or anything that you felt necessitated a change there?
I think in general, I think it's important to understand that, the job description isn't just what you see on the field, right? There's recruiting, there's relationships, there's player development, there's player production. All of it's very important. And when I evaluate coaches and staff members, the entire job description is part of that. Where are we meeting standards? Where are we not? And when not enough of those boxes are being checked, that's when there's a concerning issue.
I wasn't here, but I believe that reading reports last time that there was strong interest in the offensive line position when you had to replace Joe Rudolph. Are you sensing similar this time with filling that position for the second time since you've been here?
Yeah, there's strong candidates at all three of these. Virginia Tech is a tremendous place. People want to work here. People believe in what we're doing. The coaches on the inside of this thing see the progress we've made, know the situation that we walked into. And so the list will be strong, not just at the offensive line, but at all three positions.
Do you have a timeline for how you want to attack this, especially with transfer portal, preparation for the bowl game? A lot on your plate. How do you want to manage this and get these guys in-house?
Yeah, that's a good question. First of all, let me say Xavier Adibi is going to coach the inside linebackers for our bowl prep. Brent Davis is going to coach the offensive line for our bowl prep. And Jarrett Ferguson is going to lead our strength and conditioning through bowl prep. I'm not going to pin us down to a date or a timeline. We're going to do what we have to do to vet these candidates and to get the right coaches and right people for this team, this staff, for Virginia Tech.
Have you had a chance to meet with the players regarding this decision? Saw a lot of them on social media last night. Some of them I don't think were mixed emotions, but how do you think the locker room is assessing the changes and what they see the vision moving forward for the program?
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing in anybody's program. Performance or whether or not somebody's done a job up to standards and expectations doesn't necessarily affect the relationship and the care that these folks have for one another. When we made these decisions, the first thing that there was a message that went out to our staff. I wanted them to hear it from me first, and then there was a message that went out to our team. I wanted them to hear it from me first. And then this morning, we had a staff meeting, and then we had a team meeting to address it personally and face-to-face. It's difficult for everybody, for the guys that we parted ways with, and for members of this team and this staff. We're a relationship-oriented group, and I've known these guys for a lot of years, and particularly Deej and Chris. So, and they're people. They poured into these players and into one another. So it was very difficult for everybody.
Right side of the room, Joey.
Hi, Coach. Obviously, you've had a tremendous amount of stuff on your plate, but have you had a chance to look at Minnesota yet? What stands out to you? You've met with them a couple times at Penn State, but this is the first time VT has met the U of M in football. So,
yeah, it's a well-coached group. Coach Fleck's done a tremendous job out there. While I was at Penn State, we had some challenging games with those guys. They got good size. They're physical. They're sound. I haven't obviously watched as much film as I plan to on these guys, but what I've seen, it's a very good football team. They played, they're standing at 7-5, but a couple of their losses were to some good folks, and they were good ball games. So we'll have our hands full with Minnesota.
You made these moves last night. Is there further shuffling within the staff that could take place in the upcoming weeks?
I would say shuffling's the right word. There's some things that I'm considering that I would call adjustments that I'm working through with with Whit and just kind of talking about some scenarios that would be best for us. To provide the best support, the best development opportunities, the best resources for our players. Again, it's about having all of them reach and play to their potential. That's the goal. If we do that, I believe the wins will take care of themselves. We have to do that. And so what ways can we move the needle to better develop our players?
You mentioned some of the internal guys that were taking over for the bowl duties. Are they candidates potentially for these positions? Brent Davis specifically, who has experience as a Division I assistant before.
There'll be internal candidates and external candidates for all three of these jobs.
And just regarding the strength coach, the change there, was that something you sensed that the team was wearing down in the second halves of games, or what kind of maybe the reasoning there?
Yeah, I don't think we were a team that was conditioned well enough to start the year and to finish games. You can point to a lot of things there, not just Coach Galt. We spend a lot of time with sports science, with data, making the best decisions in how we prepare our team for the season. But we have to be mentally and physically tougher. We have to be a more conditioned team. Those things are very apparent to me.
You mentioned the meetings this morning.
I'm sorry?
You mentioned the meetings this morning. What's been your message to the players? Obviously, they're seeing some of their teammates go and whatnot, and there's still a game to prepare for. What's been your message to them?
Yeah, there's a lot going on, obviously. The staff, the opt-outs, the transfer portal, new hires, the bowl game. There's a lot. Obviously, rev share, NIL. It's a very fluid situation right now with a lot of teams' rosters, unfortunately. I have individual conversations with each and every one of our players, whether it's concerning opting out, transferring, entering the portal, and still playing in the bowl game. All of those conversations, none of them are taken lightly. Those are measured decisions on what's best for our team first and the individual second. So we've been very transparent with the team about where things are. And, there's some positive things that are happening within our program right now that they're aware of. But there are mixed emotions, which is understandable. There's 2,000 guys in the transfer portal right now. I think 30 of them have signed. We've already had over half a dozen guys officially visit. And we've got quite a slate coming up. So, this is more of a front office look as far as managing your roster. Some of my staff, some of Triumph's staff, I've had conversations with multiple professional organizations about how to manage, the budget and where does the allotment go? How do we structure this roster as far as financing? Going to lean into Bruce Arians and his experience there. I don't know why we wouldn't. We've got several Zooms set up moving forward. Everybody's kind of navigating this right now and trying to figure it out. And, Whit has really led the charge and been very good and supportive to make sure that we have a structure that makes sense for our team and for Virginia Tech and with where we are financially.
One of the things Whit actually mentioned on that front in his interview last Friday was about Kelly Woolwine and being potentially kind of in a pseudo GM role. How important in this day and age is that kind of position, and how beneficial has Kelly been to you guys?
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's done a great job. It's all new territory, and Kelly loves Virginia Tech. We have a great relationship. I think he's very, very much trusted among our administration and certainly by me. And he's got a heavy hand in what we're doing. He's the guy that leads the negotiations with our current players, and leads the negotiations with the incoming players. So spend a lot of time with Kelly these days.
Back of the room, bro.
Coach, with changes, kids in the portal, is there a bit of a re-recruiting aspect to get those kids to stay at Virginia Tech? And how do you kind of manage the urgency, like you said, balancing the team's needs and also the individual's needs?
Yeah, I mean, it's a full slate every day, because a lot of it, you have to put the attention where it's needed, and there's a lot of attention needed right now. But we got a staff that's working incredibly hard on it. Our transfer portal list at each position is very strong and long. We're going to continue to have that. You just don't know. You wake up one day and your linebacker room looks like this, and 24 hours later it looks a little different. You have to remember that there's values at play here, and what a family, a young man, maybe his agent, which most of them have agents now, what they feel the worth is financially may not align with what we are able to do or willing to do. The other thing is there's just so much uncertainty out in the portal what the values really are. Everybody's trying to figure that out. There's a lot of people right now jumping in on these players and kind of reaching out to programs and what would you pay to have this young man services, and then they go to the next school, and then they go to the next school, and it's not healthy for college football. But again, I want these guys to have all the information possible to make the best decision for themselves. In the end, the majority of these guys I'd like to see stay. We also have a roster of 120 that has to be reduced to 105, and so that's been part of these meetings and part of the attrition. Internally, again, when we evaluate players, it's relationships, it's team-first mindset. There's a lot of reasons that could be at play for us to part ways. Some of it player-driven, some of it staff-driven, some of it opportunity-driven. We've got guys that want to go play, want to be starters, and they're not here. They're not projected to be. We've got guys that want to have a role, and they don't have one. There's a lot of reasons that young men would enter the portal. And let me say, there's positive stories out of the transfer portal. We certainly have some in our locker room, but there's also a lot of concerning stories. So we try and manage the best we can.
All right, we got time for two quick ones here in the room. Damien and then Andy, and then we'll take a couple on Zoom.
Brent, Andy asked you about, defensive play calling. Have you assessed who will call the defensive plays in the bowl game yet? Or is that something that will be worked out?
No, I'm glad you asked. So Sean Quinn has been a defensive play caller a couple different places. Has been with me multiple stops. He's been a head coach. So he'll kind of coordinate the room, practice preparation, planning. He and I will work together. I'm going to lean into Coach Foster a little bit where he's able to for some bowl prep. But between Sean and I, we'll lead the charge on that. And we'll decide as we get closer to it where the play calling actually comes from.
You did have a signing class last week. A lot of them were half the class was on defense. If you had a chance to reach out to them about, especially the change to defensive coordinator, because Chris Marv had a lot of relationship with those guys and reassuring them about their commitment and signing with Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because that's another group that was obviously affected. And after the message to the staff, the message to the team, the next thing I did was call the 3 linebacker signees and speak to them personally. And had some other staff members reach out to other guys that had signed. Obviously, Carter Stollard, Nathaniel Wright. So that was certainly part of last night's events.
Let's go Andy, and then we'll take a couple on Zoom.
Okay.
With regard to the portal, when a guy goes in, is he in? Do you ever take guys back from the portal? Is there an open conversation at all with them?
Again, that's on an individual basis. there's certain guys that have the opportunity to do that. A lot of it's based on why they want to enter the portal or why we agree it's best for them to enter the portal. It's just, to me, the best way to handle it is to be transparent, to have the young man give you the information, the concerns or the wants, the wishes, the aspirations. You talk through it. There's a lot of people getting in these guys in their ears right now. A lot of people that are bending an ear and having input. So it's challenging, and that's why you go back to relationships, you go back to honest conversations and feedback. Is there a possibility that happens? Certainly. That's not a possibility for everybody that's entered the portal off our team, but it's a possibility for some of them.
Seen some NFL declarations from guys who are seniors here. Do they intend to play in the bowl game? Have you gotten word from them about who's playing, who's not?
Yeah, those guys that have declared are not. We're still working through it with a few others. Obviously, it's a business decision for most of those guys, and they're leaning on their agents and taking advice, and what's the best step for them, what's the best route for them. Several of those guys have opportunities in the Senior Bowl, which they're anxious to start preparing for that. So we're still working through some of that.
So I guess Tootin and Strong are two guys you're still talking to about possibly playing?
Yeah, what it is, once these guys sign with an agent, it's no longer a possibility. Proud of what APR, his accomplishments, pretty awesome, the year he had. But, we'll know more here in the next week. But those are certainly, important guys.
And in terms of the names on the roster, haven't seen a decision one way or another about the portal. Kyron Drones is the one I think everybody's kind of waiting. Is he staying? Is he going? Do you have a good sense of what he might do in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question because I do want to announce that Kyron Drones will be returning to Virginia Tech, as will Pop Watson. So couldn't be happier about both those guys, re-upping their commitment to us. I think we have a very good quarterback room moving forward with those guys, with Davi, and then obviously our two signees that have had impressive high school senior seasons.
Let's take a couple questions on Zoom.
On Zoom, please use the raise hand feature to ask questions for Coach Pry. Please also state your name and outlet before your question. And we'll start with David, please.
Brent David Teal in Norfolk. With Kyron coming back, is there any chance of him playing in the bowl, or is he done for this season?
Yeah, that's probably unlikely, David. He had a couple different injuries that he was dealing with. I think we all know he's tough as nails, but one in particular has been problematic in a recovery path. I'm not going to rule it out, but I'd say it's unlikely.
And then Witt was pretty clear in his interview with Bill about the goals of the program to compete for and win ACC championships and therefore qualify for the CFP. How close do you believe Virginia Tech is to attaining those goals?
I think we're closer than what people would think. When I look back over the season, and you evaluate obviously close losses, but also when you evaluate the areas that we can improve, not just with players, with how we run certain departments, decisions that I make, expectations not being met in certain areas. It excites me, to be honest, that there's it's not just any one thing. There's so many areas that we can really improve in to help us get over this next hurdle, to become the team that can win 9 or 10 games and win this conference. I think everybody would say, despite some injuries, we were a very competitive football team throughout the season against some pretty good teams. And, obviously we got to take that next step, win close games, finish stronger. And I think we've identified a lot of areas where we can help us do that.
As you look at that record in close games. Have you you and Witt come to any conclusions as to a common thread there, or were there different things at different moments that short-circuited you guys?
I think it's both of those things. I think each game you have to look at it individually. And again, there's always plays leading up to the finish that could be the difference. But also, I think adjustments at halftime are critical. Adjustments going into the fourth quarter are critical in all three phases. I do believe I need to be more aggressive to give us the best opportunity to get out front on some of those close games. But I also think, in my experience in 33, 34 years, the better conditioned team gives you the best chance at the end, particularly in close games.
Any final questions for Coach Pry on Zoom? Okay, Travis.
All right, thanks, everybody. Appreciate you coming.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate